Hi, this is Robert Clinky-Beard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes to deliver some amazing content from accomplished leaders and business owners to provide you with some value to scale your business and to become a better leader and push yourself out of your comfort zone. We encourage you to like and share with everyone to spread our messages. I'm super excited to announce our new partnership with Weathermatic. For most landscape companies, irrigation is an untapped gold mine for growth and profit, but labor and process problems stand in the way. So Weathermatic has created a partnership to package mobile technology and software with proven business solutions to tackle the perennial irrigation challenges and take your operations to a whole new level. I encourage you to reach out to Weathermatic and learn more. Cheers, everyone. Hi, this is Robert Clinky-Beard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I'm really excited today to be joined by Renan Cortez. Renan and I have known each other for, what, probably a couple of years now? Yeah, at least 2+ years. Got to know him really well. Great deal of respect for Renan, what he's done within contrarian thinking and his own endeavors. So, Renan, thank you for coming to the podcast.
Robert, thank you for having me. This is fantastic. Yeah, it's been some time already.
I know. We've shared a lot of calls and helped a lot of people along the way, and I really do respect that of you. Just the fact that you're willing to, share your experience with others. So tell you have audience all over the place, all over the world, and they'd love to hear who Renan Cortez is.
Yeah, no. So I mean, I'm originally from New York, born and raised there. I left when I was 20 years old for the military. I did 12 years Army. I was a combat medic. And then I went to corporate America, cardiology, pacemaker sales, worked for big companies like Medtronic, Abbott. So I had the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 experience. I did that for 15, 16 years. And so, of course, with 23 years of cardiology, I went and bought a construction business, right?
Of course, as you do.
The thing that made sense to do.
Every day.
But it was this whole journey that I was on, and this idea when I hit 40, I'm 48 years old, so around 45, I started hearing about, buying a business and kind of changing your trajectory to financial freedom by buying a cash flowing business. So that's how I got into contrarian thinking. And met Cody, met you, met some significant other people that really changed my mindset and kind of inspired me to set up a path to buy a business and to do things. And we'll talk about all the stuff that we're up to now. Yeah, but that's my journey so far. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think you have from memory, you have a pretty cool story about how I think you just turned up at Cody's first event in Austin, and tell us about that experience.
Yeah. I mean, so the reason I met Cody was because before this, in order to get out of corporate, to get out of my W-2, I wanted to start my own cannabis operation. And getting my MBA, University of Maryland, my professor said I need to meet Cody Sanchez. She has a cannabis fund. So I got on a plane, flew down to meet Cody at a happy hour. And we were just that was my first introduction to buying businesses, because everybody there was kind of talking, me, I was on focus. I raised capital to start up a cannabis thing. But 2021, November 2021, I went to the first mastermind, and it was a 2.5-day event where it was just everybody was talking about buying a business. So that made me scrap 2.5 years of a startup to pivot to buying a cash flowing business. And then in preparation for that, I did enroll in Columbia Business School for private equity and venture capital, because this is somewhat of a micro private equity play, micro PE. I would even say nano, like the very small business sector. But I wanted to know the ins and outs. So I'm doing this, and I started out like everybody else. I want to buy a laundromat. I want to buy a car wash. Everybody wants to buy
just one of those boring businesses. Cash flowing.
I want to do that. Yeah. So I was looking at frozen yogurt. I saw landscaping. It was very, very small in this area, but then I landed on a dry cleaning business, and it was good. Right, $700,000 business, 600,000 top line revenues, and then after debt service, you're clearing about 215, 220. I'm like, okay. I put a couple of those together. I could cash flow $1 million on dry cleaning, right? I'm also of the mindset that no matter what you give me, I'll figure out a way to make it successful.
That's
right?
you.
So
that's you.
it's not like I have an affinity for dry cleaning. It's just the opportunity that was presented. Now, along that same time, I hired a VA to look for off-market deals because Biz Buy Sell didn't have the greatest results. And my buy box was a minimum EBITDA of 500,000, service-based business, you know, the recession resistant, and in my geography. I live in New Jersey, so I wanted New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, right? And the very first thing they find is this business doing 2 million in EBITDA. And it's just, I'm like, what are you doing? I can afford a dry cleaner. Why are you, what is this? I don't have the money for, because this is going to go for well over $7-8 million.
Right.
I don't have that kind of capital. I have dry cleaning capital, not that, right? But this business was a restoration company, you know, like water damage, fire, mold, asbestos, right?
Right.
But curiosity got to me. It's free to do due diligence. So I decided, let me see what a bigger company looks like. I started doing diligence. I hit it off with the owner, very well, great people, and strong profit margins. And I fell in love with that business. I was like, oh, wow. Strong business model, strong profit margins, and a lot of opportunity to scale and grow. The only problem was, how do I buy this thing? So I built this, what I call the dumb calculator. It was just a quick way for me to do calculations like uh, financial terms and debt service and what the DSCR is, the debt service coverage ratio, you know, all the things, right? Make sure that it was a healthy business. And we use that to structure 100% seller financing, believe it or not.
No way.
Yeah,
100%.
100%. So $8 million, that's what it went for. And it took 2.5 months to have that conversation, because first you have to build a relationship. You don't just go in day one and say, look,
Right.
I want to buy your business and it's going to be 100%. That's not gonna, yeah.
Yeah.
So 2.5 months into it, building a relationship, I had to determine if I even wanted the business in the first place, right? But everything checked out. It was great diligence. I did pay for a quality of earnings report. So I had a third party review all financials. It came back 2 million EBITDA on the dot. And yeah, the hardest part there was structuring it, the financing terms. So yeah.
Right. And that's where obviously we used the experts to come in and help you with that piece. And I mean, talked about, relationships, because it's trust. Building that trust is really tough.
That's right.
And trust just to even share a little bit of information about the company, but you obviously you built up enough trust for them to
Yeah.
put, $8 billion at seller
Yeah.
financing. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, because you know, as strangers, you say that to somebody, what credibility do you have? They'll tell you to kick rocks and walk, you know, go find somebody else. So so my 15, 16 years in corporate was sales. I was a sales coach, you know, I was a
Right. Okay.
strategist.
Yeah. Right.
So I kind of had that gear of how to have a conversation where you listen more than you speak. You try to do, you know, discovery phase, right? You try to find out what is their motivation for selling, is their intent for the next phase of their life, you know, and then, you know, just try to be as genuine and authentic and how you play with that, right? Because if it's not a fit, it's not going to be a fit. You can't fake
Right.
that. So, you know, everything seemed to be in line and we got excited about it. And when the time came and I, you know, put out this seller financing option, it was a pill for them to swallow. They were like, wait a minute, what? You don't have the money? No. But you know, they're like, well, so did we just waste the last 2-3 months? I'm like, no, 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 no. I could raise the capital. All right. So that's a bit of a bluff. Here's the thing. You can. You that option is very available. For me, it wasn't, because I didn't have a network of high net worth individuals, but that is an
Right.
option. So I was like, no, I could raise the capital, but first let's talk about you holding the note. Like, what does that mean? Instead of me going to JP Morgan, Bank of America, Live Oak, or whatever, why don't you hold the note as my bank? And so first they were like, can we even do that? It's like, oh, it's 100% legal. As long as we agree to terms and then we have a lawyer put a promissory note, we could agree to whatever we want. That's the beauty of this kind of thing. We get to be as creative as possible. And so that kind of excited them. They're like, okay, well, I didn't know we could do that. And said, and then on top of that, instead of me paying you $8 million for your business, I'll be paying you 11.8. And they're like, how does that, wait, what? Because, you know, we came down to terms, 7% at 12 years. And if they hold the note for 12 years, that's 3.8 million in interest payments alone.
Mm,
And so I said, look, I could pay that 3.8 million to Chase Bank. right? That's fine. If you want me to do that, I'll go get an $8 million check. But here's the thing. Now you have $8 million that you have to contend with because the government wants their cut. So they're going to take their tax piece. You really can't solve for that big of a chunk unless, you're doing big deals left and right and you have a really good tax accountant. So instead of an $8 million chunk, you get smaller payments. So that's kind of like a 401k, or a perpetuity,
Right.
for the next 12 years, you're getting a payment. And this is what it looks like. So then they took that in, and then going back to the trust piece, I asked them two questions. I said, "Do you think your business is strong enough to support this debt service?" They're like, "Yeah, this thing prints money."
That's a
Okay,
good question.
so there you go. So yeah, because we had that relationship already, right? And so they were like, "This is a strong business," and I agree with them. It is, and for them to put it on the line for their payment to come out of the revenues, that tells me that they believe that the business really is strong. They're not hiding
Right.
anything. If
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
And then
that's
the
fair.
second question, do you think I can run your business? By that time, they've already heard about my time in the military, what I did, back when I was a staff sergeant. They heard about my time in corporate America and how I became a sales rep and director of strategy and all this other stuff. So they kind of had a idea that I've had previous success. And they're like, this is an easy business to run. We were at that point. They're like, I could teach you this in 3 minutes. I was like, perfect. So I'm paying you for the risk of holding the note by giving you the interest payments, and then we'll check in quarterly, and then we'll just. So it's been over a year now, and now they're begging me to not refinance it from them, right? Because they like being the bank. Yeah. So
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome. I was gonna ask that question. I mean, if I was to ask him, is he a fan of what you did?
Yeah.
Um,
No, he absolutely. Even his lawyers and accountant thought that he was crazy, but he saw the bigger picture also. He saw that he can make 3.8 million more by doing the deal. And it was a lot of synergy. So, and he's still around. He's not working the business at all. He has other business adventures. It's him and his brother.
right.
Um, but yeah, because we have it in there, that we could refinance this in 2 years, just to kind of get them off the books.
Right.
Because after 2 years of running the business, I can go to the bank and get 100% refi,
Right.
and
Yeah.
just
Now you've
take
got
out the
history
principal.
there.
Yeah, that's it. Because that's the number one. That's how they de-risk it. Have you ever run a restoration business before?
Mm,
If I say
yeah.
no, I got to put some money down to de-risk it. But if I'm like, yeah, this is my company for the last 2 years, profitable. This is how we're. Oh, okay, yeah. They just give you a check. Well, not
Yeah.
that easy, but you know what I'm saying. It's easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, they came back and said, look, if you ever want to refinance with a bank, talk to us first, and let's because they're getting
That's
interest
awesome.
payments. It's yeah,
I love that. I love that. And
yeah,
it's probably more than what they're going to get with the bank if it was just sitting in their bank account. They'd
absolutely.
probably be getting, I don't know what the current rates are, but at least maybe 4% ish.
Yeah, it's like
Uh,
I've seen rates of like 4.5, high fours,
right,
maybe five max, right?
right.
But yeah, this is an annuity that they count on, and they're
That's
used
awesome.
now. Yeah.
That's all. I mean, and you've now been over a year into it. How is the business going? Have you grown it? Is it stabilized? Did
Yeah, so it's a
any sort of
weird thing.
challenges you faced?
I'm glad that I went way bigger than I was planning on, because for the first year, you do all the things that you know to do, right? You want to scale up, so you put an operator in place, you put technology, you put all that stuff. Well, I did all the stuff year one, and so this thing generates a lot of money, but there were times where I was actually worried about payroll. I'm not gonna lie, and it's like I don't. But that's because we changed location, we got a whole new fleet of cars. I mean, we really put a lot of money into this thing. And so we just got all excited. So that if there's anything I could have done different, I would have done it slower, kind of
Mm,
paced it out a little bit more, built a
right.
bigger war chest. And yeah, but we got through the hard parts, and now we're yeah, there was some sleepless nights. Um,
Yeah, that's a lot in one year one because usually I say, hey, 90 days, just observe, then start maybe tweaking a few things here and there, just build everybody's
yeah.
trust. But you went all in.
We went all in, yeah. We went all in. We moved a location because they were in a house with a so restoration. There's a lot of equipment, right? Fans and
Right.
dehumidifiers and stuff. And operations was in a house. So what I did is I moved us into a professional building where everybody had their own office that they could close their door, take a meeting if they need to, with a warehouse attached. So it felt better. It felt more like a company, like a bigger scale company. It came with a cost, right? Because, more rent and all that stuff. But it was a very beneficial move. Gave all the techs iPads. We centralized our system to a cloud-based system instead of analog folders. We implemented a different payroll service, a better benefit service. So we invested a lot, and then changed out all the vehicles. It changed out the entire fleet pretty much.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously you've had good success with there. I mean, I know, I think we'll touch on the fund piece, but I mean that must have given you some great confidence to then, well, what's my next company I'm going to buy, or is it
Yeah.
restoration, or I'm going around the country. Talk through where, because I know you're
Oh,
competitive.
that, that really opened up my mind. Because in the process of looking for other businesses in that sector, I got to see a lot of the good, bad, and the ugly. I got to see best practices from around the country. I got to see some things that I would never do. And so I would come back with some pretty good war stories. I'm like, hey,
Right.
this company over here is. But then I've also seen some really cool things where they share their, like there was this one company where they have a thing called the Path to 100, and I really liked it. We ended up not doing the deal with them, but my takeaway, they take restoration techs right out of high school or whatever, they don't want to go to college. They come in, they start working for 18 bucks an hour, doing water work, restoration, demo. But then, there's a series of certifications you could get in the restoration world. So
Mm.
there's a path. You get these certifications. Now you're a team leader or a lead tech. Now you're a project manager. Now you start doing sales. Now you get a piece of the sales. So they show a path from 5 to 7 years, going from 18 bucks an hour to 100
Oh,
to
so it's
six
almost like
figure
a
income.
career path.
Yes. And that's something
I love
that,
that.
I really, yeah, that I really appreciated coming from the military, because military, they have the path. You do this, you get your next rank, right? Same thing for corporate. The best corporate culture that I've ever been in, you could see the path up that ladder. So implementing that in the restoration business, what I thought was pretty cool. And so we're doing that this year. We've already started the conversation. We have people getting their licenses, but we're going to officially formally put it in and across the portfolio. So we are taking down another company in Pennsylvania, and then we have one in California. And we're going to, put all these together under one umbrella, and we're going to have
That's
one
awesome.
restoration, reconstruction, capital improvement portfolio.
That's cool. No, I love that career development piece, because I think a lot of, especially I'm exposed to a lot of landscape companies, they have an idea in their heads and they keep talking about, oh, we need to develop that, but they never do.
Yeah.
And I think it helps with recruitment of people, because
Mhm.
if people come in interested in the job and they do the interview, if you actually show them what that career path, and even give examples of maybe somebody starting off in the field but are now a supervisor or maybe a vice president or something, it gives a lot of people that hope, that
Oh
excitement to
yeah.
be part, especially if they know the company's a growing company.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just talk through it but not necessarily show anything, it just doesn't have the same effect.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I've seen a lot of companies, they're just like, yeah, you've been here long enough. We'll give you another $2 an hour. It's like, what's
Yeah.
the criteria? What's the time and grade? What's the certifications? Not, so to make it as equitable and fair as possible, put together a path and have them walk the path.
No, oh, for sure, 100%. Now, I know, one of the other things, last time we saw each other in person, you were talking about your fund and how you were learning. You mentioned at the beginning you went to the Columbia Business School, and talk to me about how you've gone through that path and learning, because, when you start talking about all these terms and building a fund, it's just a foreign language to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But again, you being so competitive, you've just embraced that. You've been humble. You've listened. You've learned a lot of stuff. So tell me where you're at with the
So yeah, I
process.
didn't see this coming. This came out of left field also. I just wanted to buy a business, right? But once I was able to do the seller financing deal, I figured if I could do this without money, imagine if I could raise capital and do this for real. And just so I started putting, and it's even funnier. I actually, and this is embarrassing actually. Uh, Cody likes to, on her meetings, she talks about private equity. The top 10 richest people in the world came from private equity. She has a Goldman Sachs background. And I had to actually Google exactly what private equity was because I wasn't completely sure.
Hey,
You
you're
know, 'cause
probably not alone. A lot of
yeah,
people are
so
not
I'm like,
alone.
private equity. Okay, that sounds cool. It sounds like it could generate, but what exactly is it? So I Googled it. And that's what, doing those kind of Google searches is what put Columbia Business School on my radar because, Mark Zuckerberg likes to give you ads, on what you're
Yeah.
Googling. So I saw that, and that's how I got into the program. And once I got into it, I was like, oh, this is just a different language for stuff that we already kind of know, right? Instead of investors, they're called LPs. Instead of a CEO, you're a managing director. So I started stitching all that together. And my first idea was to just raise 5 million so I could buy more businesses. And then being in the community, I met this gentleman, Phil Caprone, and he was like, do 10 million. I did a $10 million thing. He was a former Navy. He's a veteran Navy vet, and he's been there, done that. So just by being in the room with somebody who's been there, done that, he's like, yeah, do 10 million. So then I'm like, all right, I'll do a $10 million raise. And then I met another guy, Eddie Carroll, who comes from the financial world. I met him through in the community as well. He's like, nobody's going to respect you unless you do 100 million. I was like, wait, what? That's a
Whoa.
lot of money, man. But in the world of finance and private equity, 100 million is kind of like a baby fund, a starter. I was like, get out. But I was like, you know what? Let's go 100 million or bust. So I started getting in other rooms, private equity rooms, family office clubs. And yeah, I started a Reg D 506C for 100 million. And I started officially raising summer of last year. We got 17.5 committed, and it's being transferred in about a week or so. And we're working on another 110 million from a company. It's a group out of Finland, believe it or not. So they're
Okay.
doing diligence. We've already been through their process. We're on final phases with that with the lawyers, and so we're looking at about 130 million ish that we've
Wow.
gotten. Yeah, I
Wow.
know.
So you put your mind to it and just head down and committed. And
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure you met a lot of great people and you probably
Oh
learned a
yes,
lot along the way.
yes,
Um,
yes. It's
and
been a
I'm
great
sure even
experience.
just your first few meetings, you were probably like, all this language and you just felt almost, I don't know, either humbled or maybe you felt like an imposter syndrome
Oh,
almost.
so much imposter syndrome. Yeah, but the thing is, so that's the uncomfortable, because I was used to, like I said, 23 years of cardiology, probably more, right? And you can say anything about the heart, and I know it. We can have that conversation. Now I had to switch gears and talk about private equity. And, I found myself very embarrassed a lot of times because in a conversation, high level conversation but you have to go through those growing pains in order to, if you succumb to the imposter syndrome and then just don't show up for those meetings, you're never going to learn. You have to break yourself down, humble yourself, listen. And to be honest, I get a lot of that from jujitsu. Believe it or not, I've been training jujitsu 18 years because you go in day one, you're not beating anybody up. You're just going to get
Right.
humbled over and over again. So once you drop the ego and learn, then you become the hammer, the hammer and the nail. Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. So it's the same process. And so I just broke myself down, did a lot of reading, spoke to a lot of people that now I can hold a pretty good conversation, like
Hmm.
super, I could hold my own in these rooms. I've been to, family office club and I've been around top level investors, had conversations with billionaires, got some really good advice, some good feedback. And yeah, it led to us to where we are now. So this
That's
is,
awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome. One of the things you mentioned just off camera at the beginning was, preparation, how important that is. And it sounds like, you do read a lot, you'll do your research and just dive in deep. And I think doing that, whether it be in sales, whether it be in, private equity funds, buying businesses, I mean, that preparation is key. I don't feel as though people try and do be lazy. They just don't do
Well,
enough.
I'll tell you what, the reason I'm so high up on that is because I got embarrassed in a big way. And the way you learn the most is by pain. Like if you getting hurt, right? So when I taught earlier, I told you about the cannabis thing, right?
Yeah.
And my MBA and all that stuff. The reason I was in my MBA course is because when I was starting the cannabis idea, I put together this great idea. I'm thinking, oh yeah, I work in these big companies. I know business. And I went to talk to investors and they were asking simple things like, so what's the IRR? What's the NPV or what, all these terms? I don't know what the hell you're talking about, man. We're going to grow cannabis and sell it for a profit. These are the numbers. And they're like, well, what's your exit strategy? What do you mean? It was I embarrassed myself so bad. And a friend of the family, he pretty much took me aside and said, look, man, you clearly don't know what the hell you're talking about, and nobody's going to give you a dime until you. So then that's when I started looking at programs to understand what IRR, and I was like, why don't I just get my MBA? So I used my GI Bill to get my MBA, and of course, day one, time value of money. I was like, oh shit. But that was a very big lesson, and prepare yourself for the world that you're about to get into, because although I was very good in mature corporate and negotiating and sales, that's cool. That's an already mature company. Entrepreneurship is a different animal. So I had to prepare myself for that. And yeah, so that's been like 3 years in the making, three and a half
That's
years.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. Very cool. Couple more questions. We'll wrap up here. But what does the next, I don't know, 2, 3 years look like for you, Renan? Where do you see
Oh
yourself?
man, I could tell you now, but it's going to change next week, because that's just how things have been. So we're taking the next 2 or 3 years. We are looking to have 300 million assets under management, 300 to 400 million, because our goal is to get 100 million in EBITDA under management, right? So that we can exit in 5 to 7 years. So at the 3 year mark, we should be close to finishing all our acquisitions by that point, identifying, acquiring, and then the 2 years after that is going to be all integration.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you all the best. I'm really excited for your journey. If people want to learn more about you, communicate with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So our fund is called Syndicate Venture Group. Our website is svgpe.com, Syndicate Venture Group, privateequity.com. All our social media is there. You know, I hired a EA and she's doing a fantastic job with the social media. I'm not strong with social media, but
Right.
you know, she's doing a great job at putting our information out there in a very professional way, because it's not all about glitz and glamour. I want to put good, actionable items out there, good information into the world. But yeah, and then, you know, my email's there, my phone number, my actual phone number's out there.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay. Okay. Now you've been
I don't
getting
know if I
bombarded.
think I might have to change that soon, because I get a lot of weird phone calls. That's
So,
another
so if
lesson
some,
learned.
so if somebody was interested in, investing in your fund, I mean, that's the best way for them to, and they'll be investing in, buying a great business, and you're going to
Absolutely.
be
To our
heading up
portfolio
that
companies. Yeah.
portfolio. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly right. So on the website, you'll have an investor login portal. You can see our PPM, which is our information packet. You can see all that stuff. You can see what we're about, our philanthropy, how we're going to give back to the community there, because there's a big mission as to why I even did this in the first place. I mean, going back to the
Right.
cannabis thing. So it's all out there on the website, and yeah, I like connecting with people anyway. So this is good.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Renan, I know you're a busy guy, but I really appreciate your time today. I'd love to hear your story. I wish you all
Yeah.
the best success with building your fund, building your portfolio, and I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll see you on one of our community calls here soon.
Yes, sir. I'll put it out in the owner circle here in a month or two.
Okay, awesome, awesome, cool. Okay, well, thank you, Renan. Okay,
Yes,
have a
sir.
great day.
Bye.
Okay, cheers, bye bye. Hopefully that was pure, dead brilliant for you today, and you got some great takeaways for your business or your leadership role. This is Robert Clickybeard. We'd love to get you and your friends to join us in our future journey. So please subscribe to our various podcast channels, or visit thecommerciallandscaper.com or wilson360.com. Love you to join you there. We have our new 360 Plus community program we'd love you to sign up for. It's on the far right-hand side of our website. Thanks again for our partner, Weathermatic, and I encourage you to reach out to them. Have a pure, dead, brilliant day. Cheers, everyone.